Okay, let's put some data into an SPSS file and see if we can do some very basic analysis. So I've opened up SPSS, in this case it's SPSS 21, and I've got in front of me a blank worksheet with no variables defined. So my first thing I need to do is define my variables. Now down the bottom of the screen you can see two tabs, Data View and Variable View. If I click on Variable View, it allows me to set up the variable name. So I'm going to just call it score. Just type in the word score and then hit return. By hitting return, SPSS guesses all these other field characteristics. Now most of them I'm quite happy with. It's going to be a series of numbers, so I'm happy with the type. Ignore what that is. Decimals, I'm going to just put whole numbers in, so I'll make that 0 decimals. Label, I could put in something else that's more meaningful, so I might put something like test score. Okay, and that's then what would appear on bar charts or tables. And then the other one that's only important is the one called measure. Now there's a hierarchy of data types that one has to be aware of in quantitative analysis, where your data can be nominal, ordinal, or what SPSS called scale, but some textbooks call interval or ratio. I'm going to set this one to scale because this is where the measure I put in, my scores, do mean something, like somebody getting a score of 10 has done twice as well as somebody getting a score of 5. Okay, I've now defined my variable called score. I can now put in some data. So I go to the bottom and click on Data View. There is my variable called score appearing at the top, and let's just put some dummy values in. Let's just imagine I've got scores of 4, 4, 7, 8 and 22. Okay, so they're my values of the variable, and clearly this person down here, person number 5, has got the best score. Let's now do some very basic analysis on that. In real life, of course, you'd have lots of variables with lots of values, and each of these numbers down here would mean that person number 1 has got this score and has these other elements like demographics, height, weight, blood pressure, that kind of thing. But just with a single variable we can do something. If we click on Analyze and go into Descriptive Statistics, I pick the top one, which is frequencies. Now at the moment I've only got one variable called score, or in this case I've called it test score. On another occasion I'd have quite a few to play with, but I've only got one to play with, so I'm going to select that one and click on the arrow to bring it across to the variables pane. Then I need to tell SPSS what I actually want it to do, so I click on Statistics, and I'm then presented with a pop-up which says, well, what do you want to do? So I want to work out the mean and maybe the mode and the standard deviation and the range, but obviously you would just put in what you are comfortable and what you need to have worked out. I'll click on Continue. I'm happy with that, so then I'll click OK, and before I do, notice that there's a tick by this box called Display Frequency Tables. I'll leave it alone, but I'll come back to what that means. Now when I click OK, what SPSS does is of course work it out, but it opens up a new window, what's called the output window. Here it is. Now the output window is a different window to the data. The data is still there. If I go down the bottom and select my original one, there's all my data, so my output has been put into a different window. What is important to realize is that these pull down menus appear on the output window as well as on the data window. Now we've worked out the frequencies on this thing called test score. We're told that n, the number of values, is 5. There were none missing, and we'll come back to that later. The mean that I asked it to work out was 9. The mode was 4, because we saw that 4 occurred twice, didn't we? Standard deviation and range have also been worked out for us. They've also given us this frequency table. Remember that button that was clicked called frequency, and they're saying that the number 4 occurred twice, the number 7 occurred once, etc, etc. So you may or may not find that kind of thing useful. Let's do one more analysis, and this time instead of a calculation let's do a visualization. So I'll do Analyze, Descriptives, Frequencies, and this time I want to look at the charts. Now SPSS allows you to do bar charts, pie charts or histograms. I'll just look at a bar chart on this occasion, and I'm going to chart on the frequencies rather than percentages. Click Continue and then click OK. Now here's the thing, it still remembered what statistics I asked it to do, and it still had that tick by it. So what it's done is replicate the previous analysis, the frequencies, and it's given me my chart. Notice something else, it's added on the new set of calculations on top of, or rather after, the previous set. So this output window is essentially a record of all the calculations and chart producing that SPSS does in any one situation. Once I've finished with it and asked to come off, it'll ask me if I want to save it, and very often you would want to save your output because you can then copy and paste into Word documents, etc. So ignoring the first set of calculations, it's given me the rather uninteresting bar chart called test score, and notice how that's the label that I set my variable to rather than the original name of simply score, and it's given me the frequency versus the test score. But there we have our very first basic set of analysis.